film has just broken all sorts of records and has really been a huge factor in what we're looking at, a plus 18% increase in year-over-year box office at the same point in the calendar right now. Overseas, I think it's an important film for China to start showing off some of its exports when we're talking about the film industry. I don't think the expectation here is for Ne Zha to have anywhere near the same success that it had with local audiences, but it is important, I believe, as a calling card for the global box office to get better acquainted with Chinese films.
And let's talk about that, why they should get better acquainted, because the graphics are getting better, the writing is getting better, and China, great storytellers. They have history that goes back thousands and thousands of years. That's going to appeal to a pretty broad section.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I have to be very upfront. I think there are several Chinese filmmakers working today more on the art house world that are very world-renowned, that are, at least personally, some of my favorite filmmakers like Jia Zhangke, like Diao Yinan, Bi Gan. These are filmmakers that are mainstays in international film festivals, and that I know here in New York, where I live, their films are celebrated with the art house community. Definitely not at a blockbuster level, but at an influential level nevertheless. Now, for more commercial films, I think that's the next stage in the Chinese film industry. I'm not sure we'll get there, certainly not with Ne Zha 2 in terms of getting those blockbuster numbers, but it is an important development to have that more commercial aspect of Chinese cinema beyond the art house,
right,
to get more connected with audiences.
You know, let's talk more about the significance of the English language version hitting U.S. theaters, because I got caught up in all the buzz when this came out. I was in China for a month in March. It was in a number of cities, but I couldn't find the English language version at that time. I'm one person who's going to see it just out of curiosity.
Well, I think it's important to open up the film to family audiences. I think when it comes to audiences anywhere in the world, including the United States these days, subtitles aren't a big barrier, except when it comes to taking your 3-year-old, your 5-year-old, your 7-year-old to the movies. Adult audiences, you have them locked in, and that's one of the reasons why Ne Zha 2 has already made $20 million in the United States and Canada combined. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's a very good benchmark, I think, for a Chinese export. Now, when it comes to that family audience, that's when the English language dubs come in and play a factor. That being said, we don't expect there to be a significant audience this weekend for the film. We do expect it to make between $1 and $2 million this weekend, mostly because it's a film that has already been available, at least in the United States, since February.
Yeah, that's a very good point. What about more Western actors or English-speaking actors participating in films in China and vice versa? I think it's significant that Michelle Yeoh is voicing one of the characters in this, and that's certainly going to improve cultural ties. Do you see more of a symbiotic relationship, for lack of a better term, between these two cultures?
Oh, there's always been, I think, a number of fantastic Chinese actors and filmmakers coming in and working in the U.S., whether it's at a commercial level or more at an art house level. And you're seeing, I think, more Western actors going in and playing their role in the Chinese film industry. I think it's interesting as long as it makes sense in the film. One thing that we're learning from the box office today is that Chinese audiences, they're not going to buy into a local film just because a Western actor is in it, right? I think it's an industry that has now been able to become more independent than the Hollywood imports dictating the box office. Chinese audiences are a very demanding, very knowledgeable audience base that I think if the film makes sense to have a Western actor come into that role, will back that. And I think the same thing for Western audiences. I think if they see a dub or an actor coming into a role, as long as it's organic, as long as it works, I think there's no problem at all. Stars play a factor, but I think films and storytelling, that's the more important factor to take into consideration.
I think that's a very good point. And with that in mind, what other franchises are you keeping an eye out for to make a splash in foreign markets?
You know, that's so hard to tell these days. Even you look 10 years ago, how the American imports would work at the Chinese box office, and it's just a vastly different industry today. Something like Superman, the 2013 version, Man of Steel, opened to, I think, around $60 million in China. You know, 12 years later, the new Superman that came out this summer had an opening around $6 million. So it's always hard to tell. It's always hard to sort of keep your finger in the pulse. Even something like Ne Zha 2, which will definitely finish the year as the highest grossing film worldwide, I don't think anyone had those expectations for that title to begin with. One thing that we can say about the Chinese market is that it's surprising us every year,
Yes.
and that audiences are more and more backing their own local productions.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And Daniel, if indeed Ne Zha 2 makes more than $2 million this weekend, I'll buy you a large box of popcorn at your next film. Daniel, thanks so much.
We're rooting for it. I would certainly hope so.
Okay. Daniel, thanks so much for your insight.